Hey everybody, this is Perch. Here's a mail, slightly convoluted. There's a little bit of, I'm not necessarily inside baseball, but I'll put it this way. It helps if you kind of have been more deeply immersed in some of the comic lore as opposed to YouTube lore, because a lot of this stuff gets talked about at a very surface level from a lot of comic commentators and it doesn't go into real depth. And so you miss on some of the nuance here if you're just listening to YouTube channels that are going the woke army is here. So anyway, I always triggers people when I say stuff like that. Let's see how many of these words I can bring up to just make people angry before we actually get to the topic. But anyway, dear Perchington, I was wondering how many of the X-Men cast are now quote canonically quote gay. What I mean by this is ever since the Krakoa era, there seemed to be a dramatic increase in characters that really had no sexuality to speak of, now being defined as a member of the LGBTQ audience. I can't help but notice that some of these characters still have no real identity other than being used in a short story in a Pride anthology, which is never then touched on again. It reminds me a little bit of some of the creators who claim to be part of the LGBTQ community, but are married to a straight man and seem to exhibit nothing other than tweets nothing other than to reveal their sexuality. Okay. All right. Fair enough. But back to my core question, it feels like a significant number of the X-Men cast are now gay, or at least can be described as gay. Example, years ago, in one of your videos, I think years ago, this happened, and I talked about one of my videos. That's many decades ago when I was doing videos. Sorry. Anyway, years ago, in one of your videos, you pointed out that Bobby Drake had a scene in a single issue of the X-Men where he said, "Ick girls," while being portrayed as a 13 or 14-year-old boy, but was still horny a few panels later. This one part of X-Men #1 was used as the basis for him being canonically gay in current times. In the Krakoa era, we see that Wolverine shares a bedroom with Jean Grey and Cyclops, and the inference is certainly that Wolverine is gay. Recently, we have learned that Chamber and Maggot are gay. What? How? Sorry. When did we learn this? Chamber had that whole thing about dating the pop star, and there was but he was in the romance. Was it Husk that he had the kind of the romance with in the original Generation X? I forget, or at least there was flirting there. I don't know. I missed. Sorry, and Maggot. I thought Maggot was into the maggots that he had. wait, no, Maggot was a perv. Like there were many issues of him perving on women, like a lot, like Sanji level of perv. Anyway, all right, that's okay. Apparently, Maggot and Chet are they? I have every single X-Men issue. All right, fair enough. All right, my question is, well, this is a terrible question. My question is, how much gay is too gay? When I see tweets by some of the X-Men creators, they talk about gayifying the X-Men universe, but I always thought that meant a few gay characters, not all of the characters. But it feels like the goal is all. What say you? I don't know. I was talking with somebody recently. They're talking about Transformers and how in the IDW run there are now apparently lots of gay Transformers, which is weird to me because this is my own bias again. As a kid, when we were watching cartoons or growing up, or seeing movies and things, everybody has their own take on it depending on how old they were and everything else. I remember watching the Transformers, the movie. You remember that one? You got the touch. That stuff with Rodimus Prime and all that kind of stuff. The badass movie. Anyway, RC the girl Transformer was in that. And I remember even as a kid, like, why, like, I guess they programmed a girl transformer. I mean, I don't know, but I didn't think in my mind, oh my God, there's a girl transformer. That definitely means that Optimus Prime is, truck styling that thing at various times. I don't know. I didn't. I never imagined that the Transformers were boning each other. I just did. That was not something that really I contemplated. I mean, it's not like that Alvin and the Chipmunks movie where the Chipettes sing that yeah, I want to get lucky with you, and they're rubbing the snakes. That was a there was a clear sign being sent there. If you know, you know. Um, but Transformers is always kind of sexless. So when I saw some of these, like, hey, there's a gay Transformer now, I'm like, but why? Like why is there a straight Transformer or a gay Transformer? Like the Transformers are like the Transformers. There's continuity. They don't breed like that. I mean, I guess they're friends, so you could. I mean, I guess I'd like. This isn't the end of the world for me. I'm not saying like oh, there's a. I, by the way, I would have the similar reaction if there was like a big Transformers comic where there's like a straight Transformers orgy. I don't know. I just I don't need that. Now, if that's the door we're going to open up, then I mean, I guess sure, but why? This isn't a destroying childhood kind of thing. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of grown men and women, but more grown men who are like really like, oh my God, this cartoon is the end of all civilization. And it's like, I mean, I get it. I get the feels and nostalgia and all the rest, but at the same time, it's hard to flex alpha male while you're complaining about Care Bears. I just for what it's worth. But anyway, I don't contemplate. So X-Men, I guess back to the original question. I mean, the simple answer is this: the no pun intended straight answer is during the Krakoa era and leading up to it. I've been reading through a lot of the X-Men comics lately through the 2010s when you had you had a bunch of people, Colin Bunn, who did that great interview with us. You had Kieran Gillen, and you had Matt Fraction in there for a little bit of time, and you had all kinds of different creators in there. And you as the 2010s moved on to the 2020s, we got further along. There was a desire for the X-Men to lean into it's always been a civil rights metaphor. That for whatever reason, that was the thing that people wanted to really, wrestle with. And I think that's a mistake. I think that having that as a backdrop at different times of the X-Men makes a lot of sense. But having that be the driving force behind everything, I think that's not an accurate read of the X-Men. That's not, if you read all X-Men, and I have, that's not if that was your only takeaway, then that was a bad, you weren't paying attention. But during that time period, a couple things happened. They leaned harder into that. And they brought in a large number of writers who, to the original male said outright, our goal is to gayify the X-Men universe. And so they started looking around for anything that seemed to indicate a sign, kind of like the Bobby Drake thing. I remember another one was Colossus is clearly gay. Why? Because, and I'm not making this up, by the way, this was a writer who was on New Mutants for a period of time, seriously, they wrote, I don't know why I'm being coy with the name anyway, they wrote, Colossus is always picking people up and throwing them, especially men. He's very comfortable picking up men, almost like a cuddle, and then throws them. Gay. I look, if that's the line, I mean, well, all right. But there just seemed to be this desire, and then I think that what also started to happen is you got further into 2020 and beyond, and the Krakoa era set this up nicely. I mean, it's a party island where people are kind of living in hedonism all the time, and it was too much of a like, look who's gay today, and so the story would be. It allowed people to write a short story that had previously been fan fiction for them, which was along the lines of, Gambit walked into a bar, but on this day, the sultry tones of Banshee's wail tickled him in a new way. And even though he was married to Rogue, he couldn't help but admit that his loins grew firm when the Irish song wafted over his Cajun hair. I'm clearly not a romance writer, but anyway, they just, and then it became a kind of another game, which is for a long time in comic fandom, and I'm talking decades and decades. Now, many of you, will admit this. One of the quote unquote weapons people have used is canon. Like, oh, but that's canon. People will say, this happened in this one issue, and they would use it as a way to kind of, I'm smarter than you in a lot of ways, like how to win an argument. Like, well, in this one issue, the Hulk was able to grab the Silver Surfer's board out of the air and hold it, so therefore the Hulk is stronger than cosmic energy of Silver Surfer's velocity. That's canon. These arguments would go on. And so a lot of people who grew up in comic stores and reading these things and are now kind of writing and are having a chance to write their kind of weird little fan fiction in modern comics say, hey, if I can just sneak this in, it's canon. And then I've officially changed a character or made my mark. There's no ability to make a new character. We've seen lots of new characters come out through several of these anthologies, never to be seen again. They vanish into the void. And so, if you can't create something new, change something existing and use canon as a method to do it. It's like, well, in this one comic, I had the character I worked with the artist, so we had the character kind of turn and give a wink to another character of the same sex, and I don't think the editor is going to notice it. By the way, this isn't me making stuff up. I have absolutely had creators, and for that matter, you all have. If you remember reading the tweet thread from Mags when Mags did the Connor Kent is canonically gay now, in her statements that she posted publicly online, she talked about sneaking this in, and this became a game for a lot of people. And the game, when played with low wages, people not paying a lot of attention, editors making $40,000 a year, all of these things combined to say, well, it's not really worth the time to put a lot of quality checks on this. And, these little things go spinning out there, and before you know it, almost, tons and tons, dozens of characters have had these moments that have been kind of slipped in as continuity Easter eggs that can be used later. What's kind of sad about all this is I can tell you the solution, or I can tell you the way this story ends. And it ends this way. It's all going to just get ignored. What's going to happen is, if comics get more distribution, if the X-Men takes off in the MCU and these other things happen, there's going to be, just like we saw with kind of Avengers, there's going to be this return to basics to align to the movies. If this current, mania around, trying to establish every identity simultaneously all at once, I'll use the words of a critical drinker, in favor of the message, then, that these things do pass. And when they pass, the results are everybody's going to ignore all this continuity. And then somewhere on Reddit or some forum, somebody's going to be like, hey, though, remember, Chamber is gay. Remember, there's this one scene, panel, 16, page, 14 of the issue. Well, I was going to use a big number there, but who am I kidding? Issue 4 of the 8-issue series. That's even being generous. He clearly put his hand on another guy's hand when they both went to get coffee, and he didn't pull it away immediately, so therefore gay. And this stuff's going to be talked about on Reddit, and by and large, comics are going to ignore it. And there you have it. That's pretty much all you got. I'll end with this because it's weirdly fitting. So somebody sent me a screenshot of a conversation on Twitter, which is always fun. And there is the new issue of Pride features the marriage of Mystique and Destiny. And this irritates me. No, not because they're getting married. What irritates me is in the crowd are the Avengers and the X-Men, and everybody looks happy and they're celebrating love. Now, the problem I have with this is Mystique has tried to kill all of those people multiple times and has succeeded in some cases. These are both villains. Destiny has kind of been a semi-harmless villain for the majority of her comic career because she was portrayed as an 80-year-old woman. Now she's young because they want to have her with a firm ass and nice set of tits. You can't have hey, we're going to do a lesbian relationship. We can't have it we're not going to have her be old. So don't be crazy. But anyway, seeing Captain Marvel like, yay, for love. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? This woman's tried to kill you and many others. She is a wanted criminal. She has murdered lots of people, civilians. This is absurd. Anyway, I find it stupid. Anyway, so they post the cover and it's they're kissing and this person goes, this is the tweet thread that the screenshot got sent. Somebody responds, probably see 1,000 copies worldwide. And then, because people are pricks, the person come in and they post a panel of Mystique and Destiny kissing, saying, does this scare you? And the person responds, not in the least. I could care less. It's simply not going to sell many comics. That's the current reality. Okay? It's this response that is the absolute mic drop, most telling moment of anything. This is the person, by the way, who's promoting this issue, saying it's good. Quote, good. We're all pirating anyway since Disney is supporting Israel. Fuck. That's the reality of all this stuff. People are doing this stuff for stunts. They're putting panels in, and the audiences cheering them on are aggressively stating that they're not going to actually spend any money on it, and they're pirating it because Disney supports Israel. You couldn't make this shit up if you tried. Anyway, there you go. I don't know. How many of the X-Men are gay at this point? I mean, if you use the logic that's currently been used of these little moments for continuity, 90% of them. That's the answer. In reality, what's actually going to stick? I don't know. The same 12 that have been gay for the last 20 years. Thanks for listening.